Welcome to Roll for Crit and our review of the game Darwin's Choice. You know that Charles Darwin fella? Well, this game is kind of based on some of his ideas and studies. It's about players trying to create different animals from a variety of different parts. You can mix and match in some very interesting ways that we'll get into, and making them the most adaptable so that they can survive the best and become the new future species going forward in the world.
This game is all about evolving and adapting to the changing environments. Now, we have a 6-player game set up here, and you can already see with some creatures, there's a lot to go over. So we're going to quickly go over as much as we can so we can get to our actual thoughts. So on your turn, you have 3 main actions and some minor actions. The main actions are all about interacting with your species here. You can create a creature, mutate it by adding new cards, or move it. Now, for creating, we're going to go with creating and moving first because they actually are the most important things. They're all about making sure your animals are in an environment that are good for it. Now, creating is very simple. All you need to make sure is you have a body part and a head to go along with it. Now, all these other animals have other parts. You can put those on if you have them in your hand. You don't need to, though. They just need to make sure they can have a head and a body attached to it. In addition, they need to make sure they survive in the environment. They have whatever their requirements are. You can see in the corner, like this needs swimming or feet. This needs no cold symbols or feet. So make sure you keep track of that. The final thing is both of them, you also need to make sure that they can eat there. As you can see, some of these places that already have multiple animals, they have to compete there by having the more traits there. They'll get to eat first, or if there's just enough food that the animals can live in harmony. Moving works the same way. You just take the animal and you move it to that location. You actually mark them with these little symbols when you first create them. Afterwards, anytime you interact with them, you flip them over to show that you've interacted with them. So you can't do it once. So be careful, just in case someone plays something tricky on you. Final thing is mutation. Those are adding the cards that you may have missed out on before. That can either be adding like these wings here that have to match with the arrows so the harper seal can't get any more legs. Or replacing a part, such as if you really want to get rid of this head and give it a new one for better adaptability. But why would you want to get rid of a Triceratops head? I mean, haven't we watched Jurassic Park? There's nothing that can go wrong with dinosaur parts.
I've watched it, and you're right.
But other than that, there are the minor actions. These are pretty much how you get better or more cards. You do refill at the end of the round, but let's say I just didn't have the cards I want. Now you can recycle your entire hand. You can do this only once per era. And now it's simply taking one card, discarding the rest, and drawing back up to 10 your hand size of any order. So you don't have to take 5 and 5 or 4 and 4 in equal amount. You could take all body or all the small ones. Small ones usually have heads and tails. The other one is trading. Now, depending on your rules, there's 2 different ways trades can happen. One is trading with players. So that would be 2 players looking, and they have to share exactly. So I can't be like, I'll give you a tail. You get to see the exact tail if that's what you want for, like, if I really needed a head here.
There's an elephant seal for you.
Now, some people may not like that because you're not supposed to share too much table information with that. The other way is actually having a trade pile. It's sort of a public little trade market area that will have usually an equal number of cards in the beginning of a round. An era, I mean. And let's say I really wanted that blue marlin head. I can trade any card in my hand for it, which can be very helpful, and also maybe blocking if I know you really needed that as well. At the end of the round, though, it's cleared, so there's always new things in the trade market area.
Once all players have taken their actions, you move on to the evaluation phase, in which you take a look at all the animals and see how well they're doing in their given environment. First of all, if anyone doesn't match the requirements, for instance, if this guy were here, maybe he had been moved somehow because you wouldn't have played him there in the first place, you can't have any heat symbols, but he's got 3. So he's going to go extinct and just leave the field completely, and you do get 1 pity consolation point for that happening. Then you're going to try to eat. So you go around and see what kind of food does everybody need. Some animals are either herbivores or carnivores, so they can only eat one or the other. So over here, this guy needs 3 plants. You would take those and give him 3 plants. If there's not enough meat for a meat eater, they have the chance to try to eat an herbivore in the same environment. If they are stronger than them, they can survive that way, and then the other animal would go extinct. They would have eaten it. Then once you're finished with all the food stuff, then you figure out there's some little awards that you get. So whoever has the best survival rate, according to these symbols right here, they are going to get a couple of points on top of them. That's per each environment, according to what it says in the corner there. And then you're going to check out their competitive strength. So some cards have these trophy symbols on them, and whoever has the most combined trophy symbols of all the animals in the game is going to get another point bonus. So that can be a really important thing, and you can get a lot of points that way. Finally, you go to the transition phase. There's a little bit of cleanup and some special effects. You start off with this event deck. You can draw the top one from there, and it's going to have some kind of a special effect on the game depending on what it is. It could move animals around. It could change the way the biomes work. It could change the amount of food that's going to go out during this round. Lots of different effects that are randomly shuffled. They could really change up what your strategy needs to be. Then there's going to be a potential biome mix-up. You will draw a card from this deck, and it's going to tell you about a certain region of the game, and they're going to be swapped out with a new card from over here. And that could affect those animals because, for instance, over here, these guys are all water creatures. This would put them in the desert, so they're going to have to try to move out of there by sometime in the next round if they don't want to go extinct. Then there's some cleanup. You put out new food on all the environments, redraw your hands, etc., and you keep playing a certain number of rounds until, it's four rounds, until the end, and you see who has the most Darwin points across all of their animals that are survived.
Yes, you only count points on the animals that are survived, who have your little color token, and you may have a few permanent points you got from when an animal died off. You always get 1 point. If they had any points on them, you get a little pity point, as you said. And that's pretty much, there is a lot going on, but once you get into the groove of it, you sort of understand, you just sort of like keep these, how do I keep this alive?
Yeah, a lot of it is kind of upkeep, and the core of what you're doing, like we said, is really just you put an animal out, you make it stronger, you move it to where it needs to go. It's those three basic actions. The vast majority, I think, of the fun in this game is coming up with these very strange looking creatures.
I mean, Tricera Harper stingray that flies. I mean,
it's pretty remarkable. It's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. For both when we did the demo version, the Kickstarter preview of this, and when we finally played this, there were times I took a picture of some of them and I actually drew them because they're just such hilarious combinations. Like this polar tiger cobra, I remember was one that I really enjoyed. I remember when we finally got this is the final version, obviously, and you ended up with this crazy gorilla creature.
Yeah, that was sort of had a gorilla head. It was not too dissimilar from this, and it was very competitive.
Oh yeah, no, you were just like, I am king.
So that was really cool. Yeah, there's some really hilarious combinations, and some that are just neat. If you're a fan of animals in general. Yeah,
because I mean, this has parts from insects, fish, dinosaurs. It's great.
Birds. It's got everything in there. Really, really fun stuff to do there.
The other nice thing I sort of like is just knowing if something survives in there or not isn't too difficult. It's just, does it have this? Is there food?
Right, yeah, it's not that complicated to read everything once you get a handle on the iconography.
And one of the things that often that we do is, like, for example, in this environment, let's say they could survive there. We'd probably just be like, as long as right now, like, he's probably going to eat that, and there's this leftover thing. Great, he's got that. So you sort of know that's what's available there. So that once again, it's a little bit easier to just, okay, that has some room for animals, or it doesn't, or something.
One of the things I think that helps streamline it a little also is that the mechanics feel well tied to the theme, in my opinion. Like, it makes sense. You can't swim in the desert, so you can't put a fish in the desert. You
shouldn't have something designed to keep you warm, like in a cold environment. If you're in the desert, you should. If you're in a heavy bottle of water, you probably need to swim. Right.
And I wouldn't call this an educational game per se, but it does take some of these aspects of nature and science and evolution in mind. And as you're playing, you kind of have that feeling of.
I think it could, in the educational sense, just seeing how weird, because I mean, it's fun to just make a fish monkey, whatever. I don't know what we come up with. But like, nature works like that, and you can see why would that something weird like that happen in nature. It's like, oh, because there could be something, like some of these events are like a meteor impact, things that actually have occurred on Earth. And you're like, okay, so that's why something weird may occur, because that just happened.
Yeah, definitely for younger kids, there's definitely some value there in that aspect.
And I will say, just like nature, it's very messy. We have piles of tokens everywhere, all these weird cards. And right now, remember, we have set up for a 6-player game, and conveniently, only one person, I guess we had that one other guy set up, but had 2 creatures. Things will get very wild and keep track, even with these nice tokens that they added.
Depending on how many players that you have, for a game that's relatively straightforward, if that came across, it takes up a lot of table space.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, it can. And when it comes to the upkeep and trying to remember,
we don't have the trade row here right now.
Right, we don't have that out either. But trying to keep track of how much food did I give that character or that animal points already or not?
In the setup, they actually have someone. You have to set someone as the game master who's going to be the upkeep master. So if you're playing this, like, they do have alternate rules, which is nice for like learning to begin, which isn't really about winning, just everyone working together, make sure things survive. One for kids, one for team battle. It still is like you need someone who is experienced at board games and probably Euro games who knows how to keep track of a lot of different things.
Yeah, certainly for your first time through. So slightly in the mid to low player count might be like the sweet spot for this game. 5 or 6 might be a little hectic for my taste.
Yeah, it got a little hectic there. And definitely 2 players fantastic, because then you're just like, it's just our creatures. I know what I placed.
Right. Yeah, that makes it easier. But overall, yeah, if you are interested in this kind of a game, I mean, like we said, we played the preview version when it came out a year ago. So if you've seen that, honestly, that preview copy was pretty well done in terms of, as far as prototypes go, I don't feel that there's too much that's drastically different. It's still solid.
I think that they have expansion in the works for more parts, which is great because the art on here is amazing. That's like one of the biggest draws, I think, of this. Just looking at this alone looks cool. And I think my favorite right now is that sperm whale sloth creature. It just looks beautiful.
Yeah, he's cool. Now here are our crits and misses for Darwin's Choice, beginning with crits. It's extremely entertaining to create all kinds of crazy creatures from a variety of different animal parts, especially with the beautiful artwork included on the cards.
We really enjoy games that leave you with something you created at the end, and this game does it so well. You will have a creation that, if it survived through most of the game, you'll be so proud of it, you'll just want to be like, I want to keep a photo of this Triceratops seal ray, or your giant elephant gorilla.
There are plenty of interesting strategic choices for you to make on your turn, and the game does a good job walking you through them as they align with actual animal traits in real life, and the iconography on the cards makes it relatively simple to remember how everything works.
Environments in ocean? I hope you can swim. Cold environment? You better be able to keep warm. And if your thing's a meat eater, make sure there's plenty of food around.
The game includes a few different rule sets and gameplay options to fit whatever your play group is ready for.
This is especially important in a game like this, which not only appeals to maybe a more casual audience, but also a younger audience as well. Life finds a way, and so do misses. The elephant in the room, pun sort of intended here, is this game is extremely clunky. You can look at our overhead video for this, and how it's just so many different tokens everywhere, on top of different cards with different animals, making sure you mark your own cards with your specific tile. It can be a little hard to track.
It's a game that'll be appealing to all age groups when they look at it, but you definitely want someone who knows what they're doing because there is so much going on the table, and it can take up a lot of space on that table.
This last miss is sort of mitigated by our crit about different rule sets, in particular adding the trade row, but when you do trading between players, that can be a little bit annoying to deal with because you're supposed to, 1, make sure that the trade is fair so no one's lying about what they're giving the other player. 2, make sure only the 2 players are sharing information to each other, not anyone else. So not only is it annoying to sort of share the information without straight up saying what it is so everyone knows, but also just mitigating other people. You don't want everyone just to leave the room every time a trade occurs.
In general, trading mechanics can be difficult in games if you're not that interested in the negotiation or table talk aspect, but if you just go to the trade row, you might feel like there's something missing from the game design.
I don't think my opinion has changed too much from the preview. I've really enjoyed this. But now that this is the official review, I think I'm going to have to, one of the big things in my head I've been arguing with is other games, because I have the luxury of being able to own multiple, but if you're looking at which games own it, I think the biggest competition for this game is Evolution. And that one, you're also making creatures a survival environment, and how do these two compete with each other? And in my head, they play differently, which is nice. But for which one you'd want to pick up, to me, this one, while you can sort of fight each other a little bit in terms of like, oh, I can survive a little bit better than you, or you can possibly eat someone else's creatures. It feels like you're fighting more of like, I want my things to be the best, in whatever the environment is. When evolution is a bit more competitive, I feel like I'm trying to out-eat you or literally eat you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Evolution definitely more competitive. They both have a lot going on. They both have a fair bit of depth, I would say, as well. I think
They're both enjoyable.
Yeah. Evolution, I think, maybe a little bit on the heavier side.
I think this one's weirdly heavy in its upkeep and management.
Right.
But then once you know it, it's casual.
Right.
When evolution seems simple because there's not as much just cards, but then the strategy becomes extremely competitive, especially with the people you're playing with.
Yeah, so definitely there's different aspects to both that depending on who you are, you may enjoy one or the other. Is there anything in particular you were talking about that they maybe have an expansion in the works that it looked like they're working on maybe some more of the from the artwork more prehistoric types of creatures like more dinosaurs, more saber-toothed
technically
tigers.
birds are in here and they're dinosaurs.
Right.
But no, yeah, anything like that, I'm always up for it. Like I said, I see some of these creatures and I'm like, I'm just going to take a focus. I just think it's a cool idea. I think maybe the event deck would be where you can add some more spice to the game.
Definitely.
I don't know how exactly. Maybe an interesting thing would be, I don't know how it would work, but a solo mode. Because, I mean, you almost are doing a lot of upkeep yourself. It makes sense that for this game to have one.
I think it could work
That's
really
the one
well.
thing that I don't think they included in this.
Well, let us know. Have you played Darwin's Choice? Maybe you were a backer of the original Kickstarter. Is it something you're looking at? How do you feel versus Evolution, maybe? Talk to us in the comments section down below. Let us know what you want to see in a sequel. And I think right now the best place to find this game is through the designer's website, the company's website, which we'll put in the description as well if you want to take a look at that.
Also, if you have played and you're maybe one of the few weird people like me who decide to draw their creature afterwards, we'd love to see your fun creations.
Yeah, show us your porcumonkeys. I don't know.
Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
This has been Roll for Crit.
If you love board game content, do us a favor, like and subscribe, and support us on Patreon.
Keep watching our content to guarantee you'll top deck a good video.